Alright guys, so are going to be starting to animate. Now, we should be done hopefully the rigging phase. I'm going to save our rig one again, since I changed a few settings, but I want to make sure that I've zeroed out all my controls. You can always, before you do everything else, just make sure you turn off everything and then just nerve circles, select them. Now, that may or may not work. Depending on what you want to do, you'll probably have to do it for each one, but see that they're already zeroed out, and I'll just save, and then we'll go File, New. Now, what I'm going to do now is why I came to a new scene is to make it easier for if a change happens to the rig, right? What we're going to be doing is referencing that scene, right? So that way we can animate over here without having it to worry about the animation. And then we can change the rig if we have to back in the rig scene, right? So what I'm going to do is what's called File, and then create a reference. And then I'm going to go in here for the options, because I like turning off using namespace. And then I just use reference, and then I have to select the rig file that we were using, right? And if I zoom out, hit 6 to get our textures back, right? You'll see a little blue square there. In fact, I'm just going to make a new mech underscore anim underscore start 01. That way I have that there. And I'm going to go with the one scene file animation setup. And then for that way I can have it all. I just have to keep track of which frames are which animation, depending on which way you're going, right? Will depend on how you will be able to export things. In our case, I'm going to also set this to 30 frames per second instead of 20 frames, making sure we also have the play rate there. You also want to make sure that you turn on playback start and end. That way you can also see down here. So if I turn it off, right, see how it only shows the timeline itself. And I'm just going to make this, we'll do 400 frames for right now, and I'll hit save. Right. All right, so we want to start off. In fact, I'm going to, literally just turn off all things except for the curves on my selection. That way I can select just the curves, right? So I've selected all the curves. You can even technically minimize, right? See that I've selected all the curves, right? Well, I want to hit the S key to key my first frame and then turn on the auto frame. Now, I'm going to make 3 animations. One's going to be the startup animation. The other is going to be a idle and then a walk. Since you guys are supposed to make a idle and walk anyway, but the startup is going to be a small little one just to get the mech into the correct stance. So what I'm going to do is roughly at frame 50 hit S as well with everything selected. That way my in-between frames, actually no, for this one I'm not going to do it that way. And because ultimately the finished pose is what I want for my default frame. So I will do that after. But for our getting into place, right, I'm probably going to have the startup have the mech raise up a little. Not much. We'll do like a round number of 8. I would probably also have it rotate forward a little just to give it a little more balance on the X. So I'd probably do like 2 there, right? See how they're auto keying for me, right? In fact, while I'm here, I'm just going to hit S just so that it keys all the frames. I'm also going to grab both my arm controls and rotate them slightly up. Let's see here. we'll do -5 just to make it nice clean numbers. And then I need to shuffle. I'm gonna shuffle this one back. So we're going to first go like I'm gonna say. Oh, right. Before you even get there, let me just see. We're gonna try it. Hopefully this doesn't break anything, but I gotta make sure my new scene uses meters as well. And then if I hit save, does that at least update? Oh, it does. Okay, perfect. Right, so I'm gonna do -0.4 and -0.4 or .4. There we go. In fact, I might only do -3, right? That way it doesn't do that too much. Again, I didn't have my leg completely straight apparently down the axis, and I think that's why it's getting a little wonky, but I'm going to keep moving forward. Right, so then this guy here, I'm going to put forward 0.4 forward. Now, I'm going to hit S on these keys because it may as well, right? Now, I need to go to frame 25, right? Because I need to lift up the back leg to make it look like we're raising it up, right? So I'm going to lift it up roughly, probably, I'm going to say 0.3, right? Just to give them a little bit extra height. And then I'm going to rotate my foot also like 7 degrees forward. Don't want, no, I don't want to key that one, right? So this is, again, you want to leave the interpolation to the other keyframes. So see how they're not red over here, right? So the in-between, right, will be this pink color, which is getting interpolated in between the 2 keyframes, right? Which therefore brings me to my ready state. Now, this is where you probably also want to slowly but surely start making like a note. You can use like your notes on side here, right? You know, frame 1 to 50. Start up, right? And that way you keep track of them as you go, right? Because you're going to need, especially if you're doing it in a single frame. If not, you would then save this as the startup animation, go to the next one, right? In my case, I'm going to do it all in one. That way we can export it as one FBX. Typically, you can only really do this for Unity. Unreal, you would want to make sure you export it from the default pose from in the rigging file probably. With its joints and the skin version, right? And then you would then have to for each of them, but we'll get into that in a little bit, getting ahead of ourselves. So I'm going to skip ahead to frame 100. This is where I'm going to again select all my ones, hit S. Right. So from there, I'm also going to go to frame 200. Where are you? Yeah, I want 200. Yeah, I'm going to do 100 frames. No, that's a lot for an idle. An idle could probably only be 50. So I'll do 50, right? That way our idle will not change too much. But for an idle, I'm going to come up here, grab our Mechs main thing, right? Maybe raise it up just a little, right? So that way it'll come in. You can even technically give the head. Oh, does it not have? Let's see. S. I'm just going to click on this one. It's my control. I accidentally lock. That one's fine. That one's fine as well. So this is where I would save this scene right now. I would then go quickly back to my rig 01. Got my control here and see that I apparently locked and did a little too much. So we'll go back to Windows and do the Windows, general editors, control panel connections, locked. I want to see here. Pretty sure Y. Yeah, it's the Y I want to unlock. So I'm going to unlock the Y scale. I'm also going to find the Y scale, or not. Oh, I just did the scale. No, let's go back to this. Did the wrong thing. That way. Y rotation. That there. Then find the rotation Y. It this way. There we go. Save this scene. And then I can now hop back to my other one. We will go to animation start. I want to save. That way I come back here, select all my, turn off everything, turn on the curve selection. That way I can come over here, hit the S key again. There. I'm also going to come back to this frame here, making sure I set this back here as well, just to make it on the safe side. That way, there we go. Then I come back to my middle frame, grab this controls right here, maybe give him, actually, I'm gonna set this default there and then pick like a middle frame, and then rotate them just a little this way, not much. In fact, I might do -2. Right, very, very, very small numbers. +2. Right, that way. Got them kind of shaking around a little, right? Back and forth. Now inside here as well, right? I could also come along and grab this one, hit the S key, then roughly around here, I can have my guns go this way, right? And then I can have them around here, this way, right? And I want to see also the playback. I can change my playback to 100, and then I can also do 150 and hit the play. Right. I probably wouldn't do too much more for my idle. So this is my idle, right? Now I'm gonna hit stop. So I'm gonna also write that down. Frames 100 to 150 idle, right? And then I'm going to skip up to, let's see here, I want probably 250, and we'll start at, no, we want 300, and then we want 200 for my next playback area, right? That's where I'm going to, again, select everything, hit the S key, right? That way I know for sure we're there, right? Zero that back out. Oh, undo. Make sure you're actually on frame 200. There we go. And then hit the keyframes. Right, yeah, so they're nice and zero. I'll have to double check my other animation in a minute. But we're going to do the walk cycle itself, right? So for his walk cycle, I'm going to go all the way to frame 300 as well. Select everything, hit S. Make sure that we've got that. This guy's perfectly fine, default. And then roughly around 250 as well is where I'm also going to, yeah, no. Yeah, 250, I'm going to hit S. Right. Yeah, so this way I have them divided nicely around 225. This is where I am going to reverse the numbers here, right? So I'm going to grab this one really quick, paste it there, and then I'm going to do 0.4 here, right? That way I've got that going. All right, next, what I'm going to do is then go back to 750. All right, this way I can then, let's see here, 750. Yeah, 275, sorry. Again, negative 0.3. And then this one here can be 0.4, right? So, let's see. Oh, I only need to do 50 frames. All right, well, that makes it easier. Just going to shift drag these back like this, right? In fact, I'll grab both of these keyframes, shift drag, right click and hit delete. Change my playback to 250. Yeah, I was getting way ahead of myself there. So we'll go back here, right? So in between 250, roughly around, let's see here, I'm going to say right here. This is again where, let's see here, if I wanted, yeah, so let's grab the front foot at 212, and I'm going to lift it up by 0.3. Give it a nice rotation as well. Also, but for some reason, I want to also rotate this, that. So I'm going to hit, let's see here. Yeah, so I should actually hit S here, making sure that that's there. I was going to do the same for this one, right? That way. Just scrubbing around here. Yeah. Sure that that one is keyed there. That one is keyed all the way there, right? You want to make sure that all the channels are keyed, especially when you want to have it in the actual finished state like that, and not letting it interpolate, right? Which is what I was having, right? So then I'm going to go back to 12 really fast. I'm going to round that to 8, so I've got up 3 and over 3. or 0.3. So roughly around here. I'll do the same for the back leg this time. This time we're going to do 0.3 and then 8. All right. Then if I were to play this, that's looking good. All right. So now that I've got that, right, I feel like I need to grab this guy now. So this guy should also have a keyframe for everything in the middle, right? But I would then, roughly where at 212, where it was, right? This leg lifted up, so I'm probably going to have him slightly turn this way on the Z only, not the Y, so I'll zero that one out. I'll do 0.8. And then on the reverse one, so I'm going to find that frame there. I would do negative 0.8 that way, right? That way he gives a little bit of wobble, right? If you wanted to, you could also have your guns. Well, I would have the guns typically animated to be where the character's aiming. So you probably want to make sure that those things will get connected to the controls, right? So then I'm just going to hit play just to see what we get. Right. If I feel like it's too subtle, I might come back, but we've at least got the beginning of our thing, right? So what I'm going to do is I've got a graph editor down here now. You can undock this, right? Get larger. Right. So this thing is found under Windows Animation Graph Editors, right? Now, if I were to select, in fact, I'm going to redock mine down below, just above the timeline, pull it up. You can always click this to minimize it, right? So we are going to select our foot controls and see that we have some graph curves here, right? These are all the curves related to the different channels, whether it be transform, rotation, scale, and whatnot, or based off of what controls have visible, right? And currently we want to look at actually just this area right over here. We can over here, if you don't see this, you want to left click and drag to pull it out. This allows you to isolate individual sections, right? On our case, right? So let's see here. Transform. Let's see. Translate. There. So translate Y is the one I want to kind of look at. So ideally, right now you can see that we have an ease in and an ease out. Now, I feel like I want to come over here and grab this tangent. It's called a tangent, right? Now, by default, you are on auto tangent, which basically makes it nice and smooth. But you could come along and change them to a smooth tangent, which will make, you'll see that it made them like that, right? And then my curve now continues down below, which isn't ideal. So I'm going to set that back to the auto. My case, I want to make this one more linear. So if we were to make a linear tangent, I can even technically grab this handle, right? In fact, actually, I might even just break it. So if you come over here, right, break tangent, you can then grab the handles and actually modify them yourself, right? In my case, I want to actually, no, I don't want to go like that. I want to make it come up like this a little, right? Exaggerate it a little more, right? So it's more like stomping into the ground, right? So see how now it's coming down really fast and then stopping, and then he moves along like that, right? So that's these are up here. You've got like auto tangent. You've got spline tangent, so it's smoother curves. Clamp tangents, and then linear. But the main thing would be breaking your tangents so you can modify the different ones, right? So I also want to go back to my rotation too, right? Because you would want, no, the rotation actually, I'll let it ease in like that just to be fine, right? So then I would want to do the same for the opposite foot control, right? You can always drag select to do that, hit F, mouse wheel in and out, Alt to mouse wheel will allow you to drag left and right as well for the thing, right? But the idea here is I want to grab the translate Y and then grab this tangent here. I'm going to break it right here, break this. Then I'm going to grab the handle here, do something like that. This also gives me a little bit of a hang as well from our moving it up. In fact, I don't know if my other one did that. Let me just quickly. Yeah, it slightly did, right? Can always like, so it gives it the idea that the foot's hanging in the air for a little longer too, right? Because it's also modifying up here in the curve, right? So if I were to now actually play back my thing, right? It looks like he's stomping his foot down. And we've got nice, easy, smooth transitions. So, let's see here. So we've got the walk cycle now, right? So enough frames to make it look nice and smooth, right? Especially since playing at 30 frames per second, right? When we import it, we'll do it at 60 or the whatever you have it set for game, right? And then you can also make an extra one if you want for an attack animation, right? So I'm gonna stop here, right? I actually should go back quickly. Let's see here. I want to increase my slider. I'm gonna hit stop because I don't want it to play back now. But I do want to come back to my first 50 frames. Right, so I'm going to first 50 frames right here. Grab this foot control, grab its Y, because this is the only other time I need to, right? So this is where I would grab this tangent here. I would break it, and then I would drag it up like that, just to give it another quick stomp, right? Bam. Then it repeats over there, right? But yeah, we could spend hours, tweaking little things here and there. This is also where you could grab tangents if you needed to and move things, right? So if you wanted to move it along the timeline, you just left click and drag. You can hold down shift, and then if you left click and drag, it'll snap to one way or the other, or whichever way you start dragging, right? So up and down, left and right. So you would left click, select it, hold shift, and then click, and then whichever way you move it first, it'll start snapping along that way, right? So if I were to hold shift, left click, and hold, shift, left click and hold, shift, then left click, hold, and drag. Let's see. There. See how it's snapping up and down. Type idea. So, quick little way of modifying things. This is also where you could come in and copy keys a lot easier and paste them instead of selecting them down here with the shift. Let's see here. I also want to make sure I write down my animation from 200 to 250. So 200 to 250. That way I know that's my tack or walk, sorry. Frames. Walk. Right. That way I've got that all figured out. I'm going to save here. And now that I've got that all done, we are going to also, in fact, I'm going to make this end at 250 just because I'll make it easier. And I'll also close my graph there. Right? So we are now going to export our model for bringing into Unity. So to start us off, right, we need to, so we've got our animation all in one file. There's two different ways you could export. Now, typically the second way works better if you do the animations in separate files, one animation per file, but because ultimately what we want to do is go up here to select by all type joints, and I Control-Shift clicked it to add it to my shelf there. In fact, I'll just do it again quickly, right? And I'll delete it just so you know that it's there. But that way I can select my joints, right? We are then going to also turn off all these selections and just have it so I can select the geometry. Basically, I only want to export the things that are important for Unity or Unreal type idea, right? And then what we need to do is go up to File, Keys, and I'm just going to go to the settings, right? So you can change the default settings is what we kind of want for the baking, but it's going to key basically all the interpolations of the keys. It's going to bake all those down into every frame of the animation. Now, at this point, I'm not going to save the baking part just because if I need to go back and change things, it would be harder to do. Now, you can change the time slider to a specific number if you wanted from start to end, but I'm going to bake the entire timeline, right? So doing so will basically mean also our rig no longer technically is attached really to the everything else because everything has a keyframe, especially for what we have selected. First things up, we're going to go File and Export Selection, right? And I'm going to export as one animation. So I'm going to start off by turning on the animation. It's always good to have baking, even though we just did the baking anyway, but it'll rerun it. I'm going to do Mech 1, overwrite my test runs versions of NFBX. So I'm just going to hit File, Export, right? This guy there will overwrite it, right? So that one is the first way you can technically do it from bringing it to Unity. The second way would be which way you would also go for Unreal and is more generic for the actual industry, where you would actually have the rig export from the rig section, right? So I wouldn't have any animations. I would turn off animations, export it as mesh rig, and then go File, Export Selection, and I'm just going to overwrite it, right? Now, then the next part would be actually breaking up our timeline. So right now I want to go back here, type in 50 to our timeline. Don't worry, you won't lose your keyframes. But we then would go File, Export Selection. And then I'm just going to overdo that by start anim FBX, right? And it's going to paint, make sure your start and end bake time is the exact keys. And then you just hit export. And then, yes, I want to replace it. You would name it appropriately and wouldn't have to replace it. Now I'm going to type in 150, then I'll type in 100. That way it closes off there, right? So this is the downside of doing it in one file versus having separate files, right? You want to make sure that this timeline is the maximum little section, but you would have to bake the keys for each one if it was a separate one. But we will then go Export Selection. This one I know is my idle. Make sure that the keyframes are correct, and we'll go there. Right. So then, last but least, I just need to type in 250. And then if I do 200, right? And then I go File, Export Selection. And then click the walk cycle there. Now, this bake here, these settings here, don't dictate which one you have out when you export, which is why I'm changing the beginning frame and the end frame of the animation when I'm exporting these, right? So that way, when you export it, they know that that's the exact ones you want for the animation. Otherwise, you might have the in-between frames or all the other animations as well. So if I hit export and override my walk now, we are good here. So now you would pop up Unity Hub, go to New Project, create yourself a high definition 3D pipeline. One, call it your name, right? Underscore Mech project. I've already made one ahead of time, and then I'd hit create, but it would take a good hot minute, but we can hop over here to my freshly created one right here. This also kind of brings me to the point of with your textures with Mechs. We're going to go File, Export Textures, and I'm just going to find my Unity HD Render Pipeline Metallic, right? And I'm going to do PNG. Just so that's easier to see. Yeah. You know what? That was Maya's. I'm going to go. Can I go up a project? No. Okay. Cancel. Again. Just gonna quickly make a new folder. To unit. To Unity. There we go. Select that folder, and then Unity there, and then I am 2K. So I'm just gonna check 2K, 1K, that, and I'll hit export. It's gonna export each of the individual ones. While I'm at it, for fun, if you were to also come back up to global. I've got, I'll use the regular Unreal 4 packed. Go to here, make a folder as well, just for fun. To Unreal. Select that, and I'll just export those textures as well while I'm here. There we go. So I can now hop back over here, create myself a new folder, right? So right clicking in the project area, we'll say textures. We're also going to make a new folder for models. Models. And go from there. So I'm just going to pop up my project folder. Right, so I'm starting off with 2 Unity. I'm gonna grab all these guys, open up the texture folder, drag and drop them right in here. Right. Now inside Unity, you do need to select these textures and change them to the normal map and hit apply. That way they will keep those there, right? And then I can go over to the models folder, go back up here. Now I'm going to drag in the one file just to show you guys bringing that guy in, right? I can go to File, Materials, Export, and I'm just going to bring them right here really fast. That way they're there. Technically, I will actually hop over here, create a folder. Materials. Yeah, let's stay organized. Go back into my folder, grab these materials, drag and drop them into the material folder. Right. Now, I'm going to quickly plug in the textures. That way my mech isn't black either. So turn off the tint, which is actually making it black. I'm using the body, so I want to do the body first. It's different. Oh, because I had an Arnold. Interesting. I'm gonna do HD, then just go for, I'm gonna change them to lit. Right, there we go. That's more, actually, let's go back to our materials really quick. Interesting. That must be in the new version. But we'll hop back to here, make them default lits. So we are going to click on the body and we will, oops, click on the body so that's in the inspector. Go to textures, grab the first one, drag and drop them in here. I've got an emissive map, so I'm going to scroll down, make this smaller, drag in my emissive map. There we go. I'm also going to turn tint off for my emissive. That way it's not there. Drag your mask map into the mask maps. Then your normal map into the normal map. Right. Now I'm going to go to the gun, right? Go grab my textures, which is gun, normal, and I missed the map. Go, then I'm going to go back up here, grab this one quickly. And technically you can select both folders, that way it's easier. Oops, I didn't mean to plug that one in that one. Let's see here. That there. There. Here. Right. And then if I go back to my one model, I can drag them out into the scene. I can go back here, go to my rig. You want to make sure you want to create it from this avatar and hit apply. Go to your animation tab. We have to break this up. So I've got a start, which is basically frame 0 to 50. I'm going to hit the plus here. All right, and this will be idle, which will be frames 100 to 150. Right, and then I can then hit the plus. Call this the walk. Right, now the only benefit like for this is like the beginning, easy to bring in, have all your animations together. It is a larger file, and it isn't as optimized as exporting them as separate pieces like we did before. Right, so just something to consider when you're doing these, if you're using one large file versus the other, right? So by default, oh, I gotta hit save, right? And I need to also right click and create a quick animation controller, Mech _01, and I should be able to go back or click on my Mech, and we can just open him up. That didn't quite. Let's try this again. There we go. Right, so I'm going to start with the Mech start. That goes into the idle. Make a transition. I'm going to leave this transition to have an exit time. I can then go as well, minimize this. I'm just going to duplicate it, call this Mech 2. Well, it's Mech 3 now. That's fine. Delete that one, and I'm just going to go straight to walking. Right? Make transition. He's just going to walk in spot. Pretty much I need to drag out and shift drag or Control D to duplicate. guys. Move them around. You guys should be familiar with these, moving things around in that in 3D space. Alt, and then right click can also be to move around, right? I'm going to grab Mech 1, select this Mech as well, grab Mech 3, plug it in. If I hit play, looking transparent. Something I did with the material. Oh, that's what I forgot. I forgot to also go to the models. So I'm going back here, grabbing the start and not the start, but the block. Let's go back here. Looks like I have to go in here to actually edit it. So the idle has a looping, and the start also is looping. Right. If I now hit apply, they will continue walking. But for the materials themselves, oh, I see what happened. I don't know how they got too transparent, but I want to put that back to opaque. There we go. There. All right, and well, for the body, I could technically also use emissive, and then set this to Evo, and then technically get the color. All right. Now, if I change the way my sun is looking, I can then go back to the body really quickly. Let's just oh, not sorry guys. 10 there, much better, and then I can hit play. All right, so my idle's going off and my walk is continuing, right? You typically would set them up with a better state type idea. Now, technically now, if I wanted to, I would do the same with the other ones, but I'm going to just show you guys the other export where we exported everything out separately, just over here really quick. All right, so I would first grab my mech rig, drag and drop them in to a folder here. It will pop this up. You need to turn on the static mesh, and I'm going to hit import. All right, now I'm going to grab my my other two animations, the idle, the start and walk, and drag and drop these as well. But for these guys, I'm going to turn off the import mesh, and then I'm just going to say import all, and then just give it a quick check before I apply a material. All right, see that they are all nicely working inside of my Unreal here. Let's see here. Actually, just go file, textures, and just drag to Unreal. I grab and drag these in here. The only thing I do need to change is this guy, and this guy. Actually, I'm going to come in here. What I need to do is change this to world. Want masked. let's just change it to mask that way. There we go. And then back over here, mask no RGB. That's right. Because these are packed maps. These ones have the different channels, right? So if I turn off one, right? So by default, these guys, right? You can see this would be ambient occlusion. This would be your metallic. This would probably be your roughness, if I remember correctly. Let's see. ORM. Yep. No, so I had the roughness and metallic backwards. But just gonna double click to open these guys really quick. And then go to my texture folder. In fact, I'll hit Control Space and close these guys really quick. Save. Let's see here. I'm going to grab the body. Let's just do this quick. Technically, I should set up a master material and do them separately, but I can plug my emissive channel here, technically. Normal to my normal, base color into the base color. Now this is where I would go ambient occlusion, roughness, and metallic. That was using the default 4, using the ORM material. All right. I'm then going to grab the guns version to the gun. Again, just to repeat it, base color, normal, and also do ambient occlusion and metallic. Save file. That just leaves me with the last one quickly. That really fast as well. That way, let's have everything kind of there. Right? Base color, normal. Now, one I want handed in for the class is the Unity project, but I decided to also show you guys how you would bring them into Unreal as well. This and that, and save. Right. And then if I hop back up one, you'll see that we got that all nicely figured out. If I, for whatever reason, wanted to drag play, we're going to ignore the zombie game, and we can see the animations playing for our Mech. That's without setting up the actual state machines and that, but at least have that. If we hop back to Unity, how you would bring in your model for the other guys, right? You would first, I will also quickly just show you the setup if you were doing it the other way as well. Just so that way you've got that as well. Just go back here. I need to grab SM rig, right? I need to drag in SM rig, drop him here. Now, this guy here, materials, I'm going to actually click on my materials and drag and drop the body, gun, and the legs. Hit apply. That way they're already done. Right? Now I would go to the animation side. I would want to create from this model and hit apply. You can also, to make it lighter, turn off animation, since I know the rig doesn't have the animations, right? Then all I would do is grab those three animations, click and drag, and then you would have your start, walk, and idle. Unfortunately, you have to come. Actually, no, you should be able to do this all over here. From other avatar, and then you would find the rig avatar. Apply. Right. Then if you go to one at a time, you can hit play. See the animation playing in there. And also, it's, you know, depending on how you wanted to have them set up, right? So, but I do want the Unity project for with whichever way you want to do it handed in for the project.